that the audio in the stream actually works.
When you start the stream, start the music, and then we'll go.
I just want confirmation that the stream actually comes up.
There it goes.
It's coming. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to confirm. Oh, now it's buffering.
I see it.
Damn it, Internet, you had one job.
I see it. I see. Oh, not. I see it. It's right there. It's right in front of me. I see it. Dude.
Okay. Alright, I gotta mute that so you don't hear it double. And then the space. Alright.
You're supposed to
Oh
hit
yeah,
the
I gotta
thing.
click on the thing.
You gotta click on the thing.
There's a thing. You must click it. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I'm not recording.
Oh, for
This would have
God!
been great. Call graph.
Professional.
Trained professionals. Don't try this at home.
Professional. Professional folks. Sorry, just
Alright.
bear with us. We're doing this for the first time.
Like ever.
Yeah.
All right.
Like ever.
Here
We
we
just
go.
came up with this idea like today.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everyone, to the Space Game Junkie podcast. I, as always, am your co-host, Brian, and joining me, as always, is your co-host, Jim.
Coming at you live from space.
It's the Rube and the Hunt, making your morning commute extra awesome.
All right,
We're
I
not
had to
going to
do
do
it
that.
once. We're not going to do that ever again.
We're not going to
Until
do
I
that
do it again.
regularly. So we're trying something different, folks. We're trying this new thing where we're streaming the podcast live on Twitch as we record it, and we're going to have the IRC channel right underneath it on the new chat and stream page on SpaceGameJunkie.com. So we're going to try and do this every. Jim, are we going to do this every week?
Every
Do you want to do this every week?
single week.
Okay. I think this will be an interesting way to add engagement. This was your idea, by the way, Jim, and it was a good one because it'll add interaction and engagement that we didn't have before, and we won't be speaking like into a vacuum. We'll get maybe a little audience participation.
I know. Well,
So-
we might get some coloring entries beyond the one that we've had.
We only had one. But we have a guest this week, folks, joining us from where?
Denver.
Denver, okay. Joining us from Denver, Colorado is Douglas Triggs, creator of the iOS and macOS game Tactical Space Command. Welcome, Douglas.
Hey, everybody.
How are you tonight?
Awesome. How about you guys?
I hate daylight savings time.
Well,
I
yeah,
hate
it does suck.
Hate it so much.
Totally with you there.
Oh, so sleepy. But we brought you here today to talk about your Harpoon in Space game, Tactical Space Command. I'm going to be honest, I haven't played this game much because it's not on the PC, which I want to talk to you about at some point. But I can only play it on my work MacBook, and I forget it's there because I don't want it to be obvious to people walking by at work that I have a game on my MacBook. So I've maybe played an hour and a half of it.
Yeah, but it's intended to be played by the Maxter race. You see. So the lowly Windows losers. Oh wait, I would play it on my Surface though. You should totally convert this to RT.
You have an iPad, Jim.
You'd get like 5 downloads easily.
Jim, you have an iPad, for God's sakes.
I do.
Have you?
Yeah,
I do. I have
I
it
might
on
get
the
as many
iPad.
copies. I might sell as many copies on the Surface as I sell on the Mac.
Really? You haven't done too many on the Mac? It's all been iPad?
No, it's all iPad.
Yeah, I think
Well,
maybe the iPad's the better interface though, because like I'm moving the mouse like edge to edge on the screen, like clicking the things, and it's so much quicker if you touch the things, and that's cool. So I'm getting used to the touch screen thing. Like now that I actually have a convertible tablet slash netbook that I can touch the screen. But before I had a notebook that was just a straight up notebook that had a touch screen, and I hated having a touch screen on it. And I was like, oh, that's why Apple didn't make the MacBook Air have a touch screen, because it's dumb. But now that I've got a thing where I can tear the keyboard off, I'm like, oh, okay, it totally makes sense. So,
Yeah, that was always the target, was the iPad. I mean, the fact that I put it on the Mac is just because it was really easy, because
Oh, was it?
it's all Cocoa. So I mean, all I had to do was
Oh,
rename a bunch of classes from one thing to another, and it's almost exactly the same logic.
so what inspired you to make this game, and like when did you start working on it?
Oh, that's the first part's a hard question. Second part is an easier question. Started on it about a year ago, and I don't actually remember why I started working on it. Because originally, well, I mean, over the years, I've written a lot of games, just little things from when, back in the day when I had a Commodore 64 and was writing crap in BASIC, to just lots of little stuff.
Did you get the magazines with the pullouts and it would
Oh,
be
hell yes.
the game? Yeah, I had that for like my TR. I got those same magazines, but I had a TRS 80.
so do you ever
I was doing the same thing.
miss all those peek and poke statements?
Hell no.
Do you ever wake
I
up
did all in
screaming?
BASIC, man. No, I never really did the peaks and pokes. I always did it in BASIC, so my games
Yeah.
were really slow. But I was like years ago. I was like started working just for the hell of it. I wasn't really intending to do anything with it on like a kind of a 4X game, which would have been like the boringest 4X game ever written, because it would have been like, Galactic Civilizations Light or something.
Oh man, I don't know. We've had some pretty boring entries lately in that space. So
But yeah, but this year I was like, I wanted to write something, and I got inspired for, I don't even know how I got inspired anymore, and so I started working on this thing. And I don't really know why I started working on this anymore. I just thought, hey, this would be kind of cool to have a game that was kind of like this, and that's pretty much where it came from. And what surprises me more than anything is I finished it and I actually stuck it out there.
yeah,
'Cause I've started so many projects over the years and never finished them before.
and the response I saw on your website, you have a bunch of reviews linked to. The response has been pretty positive.
Yeah, the few people that actually looked at it.
But I mean, on the iPad, especially, there aren't, if I recall, there aren't a lot of games with this kind of depth.
No, it's pretty unique. Well, that's one of the problems. Is kind of I'm shooting for a niche within a niche, because there's not that many people on the iPad that like really want to play the serious games. I mean, it's mostly the people that read Pocket Tactics, and maybe and a few other people out there. And then I give them something that's like way more with the steep ass learning curve that Jim was experiencing today as he was playing it.
But we know people.
There's no Candy Crush.
We know people that there's an audience there. But I think what you need to do is get the exposure for this. So
Yeah.
Brian and I went to a press conference in, what was that, July last year?
Yeah,
Yeah, and we sat there with the Slithering guys, and it was who was it? It was Matrix Games, right?
Slytherin and Matrix. Well,
Yeah.
Slytherin owns Matrix, but yeah, it was Slytherin and Matrix.
Okay,
Thought
so
it was
there
the
was
other
this
way around.
there was this guy, and he was showing off a sort of a Harpoon reboot, but it was like the most boring spreadsheet you'll play all week. Right? and it was like he's doing a demo of this thing, and it was like 45 minutes long, and it's like I'm sure that it will gel together into a cool game, but in the state that it was, it was just deadly, you know. And
Yeah.
and if it had had the presentation that this has going for it, rather than looking like a game that's played in Excel, then
Yeah,
I mean, seriously, he had like a little window off to the side. It was like a postage stamp, and it would show like how you show your ships moving along and the engagement stuff. And he's got a dot moving, and he's explaining like, okay, this is a B-1 bomber, and it's about to bomb this airbase, and then the airbase just disappears, and he says, okay, it hit it, and it's like, man, I need something other than that going into this. I mean, I don't expect it to be like a JRPG where like damage numbers bounce out the top of something, but it just wasn't doing it for me. But I could see this interface here, which is clean enough, and it doesn't look like a Mac thing, right? It's kind of maybe
It could be
alien.
universal.
Well, yeah, it's universal, but it's kind of alien looking on the Mac platform because you
Mm.
don't see anything that's clean like this, right? It's got their whatever, the gray tone shading stuff that seems to be prevalent in Cocoa apps. And I like this for that because it's just kind of like a gray neon interface, and it
Hmm.
looks like, if I was under Wigan, this is probably the best view that I'd have. Right,
Yeah,
so
yeah. I was gonna say it actually looks like you're like an admiral off in a like command center using this interface. It's so easy to imagine that.
Which of course was exactly the idea. I mean, it's meant to look like that whole command control center kind of thing,
Yeah, from like an aircraft carrier.
or like Aegis
Yeah,
command
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and I gotta say it works really, really well. I mean, it took me a little while to grok it, but once I started grokking it, I really, really dug it. It's not complicated. I mean, it at first blush, it's like holy crap. It's not complicated because you put pretty much all the options out there in front of the player.
Hmm.
Like you click a ship, you click a spot in space. Every option that ship can accomplish is right there. It's very straightforward, which I like.
Yeah, and that was the intent from the very beginning. And some of the exact things you see are from like tester feedback, and some of it was just the original vision from the very beginning. And I was always going for like the really minimal looking, clean, give you everything you need right there kind of interface.
yeah, the only thing that I find myself wanting to do that I can't is sometimes I want to drag select a box around things, and I can't do
Yeah.
that. So that's really the only thing that I've found in the interface that I'm not really digging right now.
Well, the problem with that is drag moves the map around, so it's hard to. I don't know. Maybe I could like do control drag or something, but
Or two fingers. Well, two fingers is a zoom though.
Yeah,
right.
that's the
Or well, yeah, I guess if you put a button down at the bottom of the screen, that's like a modifier, and if you have
like a
one
toggle.
yeah, like you have one finger on that, and then it allows you to drag select boxes instead.
Is that
Yeah, 'cause
possible?
It would be like a shift key.
Yeah, the hard part is I'd want to be able to do that on the iPad too, and
And apparently,
you're a lot limited there.
Knack in the channel says it's a bastard, quote unquote,
It
on the
is.
iPad.
Well, especially since I didn't use any of Apple's Touch stuff, I wrote all that stuff custom.
Oh, really?
Because Apple's Touch stuff didn't do what I wanted it to do, so it's actually kind of horrifying if you know what some of the code underneath looks like.
I didn't even know you could do that. I thought you
Oh
were
yeah,
a slave to
no,
whatever
some of
Apple.
that old NS code is creaky weird shit. So it's which by the way, buddy of mine runs the Cocoa Heads conference thing here in Raleigh, and I don't know if there's like an NS coder thing that's around you out in Denver or what the closest deal is, but I don't know if you socialize with the other Mac devs yet, or because I
Not
know
really.
you're primarily a Linux guy is what you were telling me, professionally. So this is just
Oh,
kind of a fun project, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't really. I every so often I'll socialize with some of the indie gamers out here, but I haven't really. There's some meetups for like iOS developers and stuff like that, but I've never actually attended. I keep thinking about it, but they're all. I live kind of way on the edge of Denver, and it's always downtown somewhere, so it's kind of a pain in the ass. So I don't know. Maybe if I move or something.
Okay, so
LA
since
is real nice.
I'm playing this thing up on the stream, right? And you can probably see. But what I'm trying to figure out is I have all these ships, and I just undocked them, and I'm trying to think what is the most efficient way if I want to stick all these dudes into a fleet together.
Test-
Pick one, create a fleet, and then select the name of the fleet, which will be right above that, and then say add ships, and then add everything.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's a task force in the game, though. There's a fleet. I thought it was called a task force.
It is a task force.
Yeah. So you create a task force with one ship, and then you can just add, if you want, every other ship you have to that
Yeah.
task force.
You
But
might
I've-
not add a sentry, say that's kind of silly, but
What I've found I like doing is I have multiple task force. I'll have like raiders, I'll have sentries, and then I'll have like everything else in another task force. Because the tasks force, having task forces that's hard to say. Um, Having multiple task forces is very efficient for this game. Now, I've played a few scenarios. I played the tutorial. I played a couple of the standalone scenarios, and then I played some random maps. And I played a few of the maps on was it normal easy difficulty, and there wasn't much of a challenge, so I put it up to the hardest. I got my ass whooped, dude. Whooped.
When's the last time you played it?
Yesterday.
Okay, yeah, the AI's gotten a lot better. I spent a lot of effort in the AI for one too.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like they were building what looked like a task force of their own right outside their planet, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to do that too. And so at one point, I'm like, I have pretty much, I think the same amount of ships as they do. I'm going to send this over there, and nope, I got creamed. So I think I just the overwhelming force thing didn't do the trick. I think I probably need to be even more granular, like missile cruisers go over here and attack from afar and blah blah blah. But I didn't do that, and so the AI knew I didn't do that and kicked my ass. So well done there. It was really great to see the AI just slaughter me. I really actually enjoyed that.
Yeah, I was actually, when I was developing it, the first time the AI surprised me and beat me was a very happy day.
Nice.
Because when you know what the AI is doing and you know exactly how it's thinking, I mean, it's really easy to like exploit it.
Yeah.
And one of the things I spent a lot of time doing when I came out with the scenario editor version, the 1.2 version, is just kind of ruthlessly going through and trying to find all the exploits and making them not happen or not available. And there's probably still a few, and I can think of a few edge cases, but and it will do some kind of stupid things still now and then because it's honestly not that smart. It has to be fast, because it's thinking every tick. And when you're on an iPad, you don't have that much processing power to throw at it.
Mm.
But I'm pretty happy with it at this point.
Yeah, it's challenging, and I'm really happy that not only do you have a random map generator, which I'm always a fan of, but your last major version had an editor, had a big old map editor, so people can make their own maps now too.
And when I did that, I also added a whole bunch of scenarios. Every single one of them I made in the map editor as I was developing it.
Oh, okay. I saw there were like pre map editor scenarios and post map editor scenarios.
And you can load those all up and just edit them if you want to, see how they're set up.
Yeah, I played around with it a little, and I ran away crying because I was like, ah! But yeah, I gotta say, even though it's on a Mac, I had fun with the little time I had in it. Now that brings me to my next question, which you've hopefully been asked before. Is there a possibility that this can come to the PC? Because if there is, I'll play it a lot more.
That is kind of I have a two-part answer for that.
Okay.
One, Tactical Space Command as it is probably never going to be ported.
Oh.
Because it's written in Cocoa, so it's probably all the game it's ever going to be. However, if it's ever successful enough, I would like to come back and write a Tactical Space Command 2, and I have a lot of ideas for how I would refactor things to, just both make it easier for me to maintain the code, because it's gotten kind of the point that it's a little bit hard to maintain, and also a lot of like features that people have been asking for, like different asymmetrical fleet types, like, maybe like shield generator ships, mobile repair yards, mine layers, all sorts of stuff like that. And if I did that, I would try to make it a cross-platform game and do it in something besides Cocoa.
There's a lot of possibilities I could see here. I mean, like, I don't know if you ever played Conquest Frontier Wars, but I could totally see like multiple systems connected by like wormholes being an option with this.
Yeah, also, and I would also probably scenarios. I would probably do a lot more with the scenarios, like allow people to have custom events, to go off timers and all sorts of other things, and just all sorts of ideas that I think would make it a far deeper game, as if it wasn't complicated enough.
I wouldn't say it's complicated. I would say it's
Well, for an
advanced.
iPad, maybe.
Well, maybe for I don't know. I mean, I don't have one. I don't know what those I don't know what those gamers are like. I mean, what's that? Flappy Birds? That thing there?
Yeah, you
The
could
thing
totally
there?
just name this Flappy Space and stick it up in the App Store.
Flappy Space Command. I mean, that just tells me the kind of caliber of game player. Maybe I'm being mean, but I don't know. I just don't think.
Well, I mean, there's like, I mean, you have a sort of similar segmentation even on the PC, but it's like the
Eh,
proportions are different. But there
yeah,
there are serious iPad gamers, and there are serious iPad games and some pretty good
it's true. I
ports.
mean, Imperium Galactica too, which is one of my favorites, is on the iPad, and so is Space Word Ho and what's
Yeah, oh,
that?
that's classic.
What's that Master of Orion clone? Starbase
Starbase,
Orion.
Starbase Orion, yeah, that's a great game.
So yeah, there are options on the platform, but yours, I'm guessing yours is pretty unique.
I haven't ever seen anything much like it. Although there's some of the Slytherin games that they ported over to the iPad. Like they have Panzer Corps with all the scenarios and trees on the iPad. That's just massively complicated.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
but that's the thing is because you've got the game done, so it's not like you need funding or whatever for this, but you need this to create the second one, right? This needs to be successful. So what
Right.
about reaching out to somebody like Slytherin and say, hey,
That's a
can we
good
make a
idea.
deal? Give me some exposure. We'll stick a Slytherin label on this, and you can be the distributor, but you don't have to distribute anything. It's just like make a business arrangement of I'll give you a percentage of whatever I make if you get me exposure for it.
Don't know. I haven't really thought about that. My immediate plans are to write a couple other games that don't have anything to do with this, just because I've got like any game designer, I've got like millions of games inside of me, and I like to do a few of them and do something a little different. Because one thing about having done this for a year is I'm really sick of looking at this game. I'm
Oh,
sick.
really?
I'm sick of playing it because I've played thousands of games probably.
Oh wow.
Because I've had some beta testers, but you do a lot of it. You don't really feel comfortable putting anything out there unless you've tested it. So I play another few games, and I play another few games, and so forth and so on.
Right.
And I'd like to do something different for a little while. So I would like to come back to it and really expand it. But honestly, I picked this game because when I started it, because it was something that I knew I could finish, and I've got like some ideas for other games, even another like space game, which I don't have the resources to do right now, but that I would love to do is do a 4X. I mean, you guys have had the exact same idea on the podcast. I've heard you guys talk about it, where you do a 4X where that's essentially you don't have any exploration. Instead, you have something that's more like Crusader Kings, and you're dealing with like imperial politics, and you're dealing and things on that level.
Yeah,
And,
that game needs to be made.
and that's a game I'd really love to make, but I don't have the resources for it right now.
I mean, it's already kind of been made, but it's also, God, 18 years old. So we need a new
Which game are you talking about?
Emperor of the Fading Suns.
Okay, because I
Have
never
you-
played that.
Yeah, do you have a PC at all?
Oh yeah,
I'll help you out.
I'm mostly a PC gamer.
Oh,
more
okay.
than anything, anyway.
Okay. Wait. You're mostly a PC gamer, and yet,
Well, because he
Well,
wanted to target the iPad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
so,
well,
so the
that's
Mac
part of
was
it.
just an appendix because the code was already there.
Okay,
So
I'm sorry.
You click one button and it's a Mac game.
I'm sorry. I'm a little bitter. I feel like I'm missing something because if I didn't have my, if I didn't have my work MacBook, I wouldn't be able to touch this, and I feel like I'd really be missing out.
Yeah, but you'd have felt that way too about like Weird Worlds in Infinite Space back when that came out because that was Mac only for until
No, it wasn't.
quite recently, wasn't it?
No, that was
Yeah,
on
I
the PC.
remember.
That came out ages ago on the PC.
I thought it was a Mac only deal when it first came
No,
out.
no, that came out years ago on the PC.
Yeah, because I remember it was like OS 9 or something when it came out on the Mac, OS 8.
No, it was compatible with that, but it was on the PC at the
Yeah.
time.
Okay. Wishful
Yeah,
thinking.
totally. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
but
and the other thing is, I do a lot of development on the Mac. I mean, a lot of it's like in VMs and in Linux and all that kind of stuff. But it's an environment I was comfortable with, and I had my MacBook lying around, so I started working on it. So that's
Awesome.
why it's Mac and iPad.
Oh, cool.
right.
So how did this? Why did you decide on this particular flavor of game, as far as doing you're sitting in the admiral's chair with a radar scope?
Because it was easier, honestly. Because it was something I could see myself finishing, and I liked playing Harpoon back in the day, and I thought it would be a kind of a cool concept. And
Oh, it's a very cool concept. I mean, this really hasn't been done, really. I mean, maybe a little bit here and there, but not to this extent.
right,
Yeah.
so I mean, I don't remember all of my reasoning for it, but that was part of it. I just started working on it, and eventually I finished.
Well, now you say the code is getting a little ridiculous, and you're kind of sick of playing it. Are we not going to see any more updates for it, or are you still planning?
No. I mean, any sort of minor stuff I'll still do. I mean, I have actually an update I'm waiting on some more feedback because somebody was talking about finding some bugs or something, and I don't really know what they're talking about exactly because they haven't told me yet. But if there's anything I can fix in there, I'll be putting up bug fixes and things like that. But you got to realize this was my first iPad app ever.
Oh,
So
okay.
So some of the early code is a little bit.
Yeah, well,
You'll
most people
see.
most people try like a to-do list or something that's not as ambitious as this. So yeah,
Well, I've written, God knows how much code in my life, so it's not like I wasn't an experienced programmer, but it was a new environment and in a new language.
so whenever I'm setting, like if I put a ship, I've got some escorts here, and I want them to patrol up and down the space lane to make sure that the raiders don't get in there. But if I put patrol, it lets me set waypoints, but he stops at the last one.
Yeah, patrol doesn't actually go anywhere. It just basically covers the area around it.
Okay, so there's no way to set a looping patrol.
No, not right now. It's one of those things that'll end up in version 2 if there ever is one.
Okay.
Maybe then you could set an alert that when your ship gets a ship gets to its last waypoint, it pauses so you can give it more waypoints if you need to.
Well, it'll say the ship doesn't have orders. It'll stop
Oh,
and say
will?
that. Yep.
I didn't even notice that then.
Well, if it actually doesn't have orders, because if you give it orders along waypoint, it'll say I want it to patrol, and then you give it the waypoints to get there. It'll just patrol when it gets to the end.
Okay, so it just sits as sentry basically.
Right.
What's the difference between patrol and sentry?
Sentry, a ship. If nearby ships come too close, it'll bug out. For patrol, it'll chase anything smaller than it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so patrol's aggressive and sentry is more like run if you're engaged.
Right, and raid is like sentry, only bugs out at the slightest provocation because raiders obviously are easy to kill. So you don't want them anywhere near enemy ships.
Yeah.
You want them sitting there on the cargo lane.
So how are you modeling the detection? Like I can pick let's say my sentry ship here, and then if I turn the sensor circles on, then it's got concentric rings that go out, and does that mean like the innermost ring is almost perfect detection, and then like the next ring's 50-50 or what?
Depends on the ships, because all the ships have different sensor profiles. The inner ring is the approximate range it can detect a raider. The second ring, the middle ring, is the approximate range it can detect an escort, and the outer ring is the approximate range it can detect a capital ship. Now, mind you, there are a lot of things will affect that, like the skills of the commander, whether there's nebulas nearby, or any of that sort of thing. Although I think it does take technology into account, because that's kind of fixed.
So yeah, and I noticed there's a research button here. I haven't even gotten into that. What does the research do? Does it just take the existing ship and say, okay, the armor is like 1 point better, or what?
Pretty much. Although it only applies to new ships, it doesn't apply to your existing ships.
So there's no way to refit.
No, the only things that refit are stations.
Okay.
Although ships do get experience, so they get better.
All right,
that's good.
And what's the effect of putting officers on the ships? You said in the tutorial video that you don't really have to go into the officers thing because it takes care of itself, and they'll level up and get assigned to ships and stuff.
Yep.
So
Uh,
do they just appear on the ship, or they're on the station and they have to?
if there's a youth officers, and if you have those settings set, it will automatically promote them and assign them to ships. But you can control that yourself. So you basically can say you have some officer who has some pretty good base stats, and you can't really tell at first because if you go to the officer screen, you'll see, especially the if you like sort it by experience, you'll see that a lot of the officers have these like orange bands of skills in the middle. And what that means is you don't really know how good that officer is. He's somewhere in that range. And as he gets experience, that range will shrink down to nothing until you have a fixed knowledge of how much experience he has. And the ones with higher skills, obviously, will give bonuses to your ships and stations and so forth.
Okay.
And you know, if they have a high command skill, they can also apply those bonuses to ships if they're an admiral and control a task force.
Hmm. I'm sorry, I'm just lost in the stream.
Yeah. So whenever you set up speed circles, when you turn that on, what is that actually showing? Like how far the
That's
ship
showing-
should go in 1 year?
Yeah,
Or-
if you see little numbers at the corners, that's how many ticks.
Okay. So I noticed that's a date, right? Like that's the year 2503.7.
Yep.
So what is 10 months in a year, basically tenths of a. So combat, the game basically plays out in month-long turns as it goes through ticks, right?
Yeah, it's pretty abstract. It's just, you know, a tick of turn. You can interpret it as years, months, or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I just interpret the high level as years and have the rest be a fraction. You know, it doesn't really affect anything.
Okay. Because
However,
I noticed in combat, you know, as you don't really get like a blow-by-blow thing from combat. It's kind of like these ships, you know, you get an alert like, okay, these ships are in combat, and then very quickly, maybe in the next tick, it's like, boom, 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 these guys are destroyed, and you know, then a couple of them will flee to go back to base to repair because of where their repair threshold's set at and that kind of thing. But it's
Yep.
kind of like, just make sure that you bring the right stuff to the fight, and the fight will just resolve itself. It's not like you're going in and micro in the fight.
Right, and you can micro the fight to a certain extent, but there's not a lot of percentages in it. You're better off, you know, dealing with the resources and letting your admirals go and handle it, and picking like formations and stuff that makes sense. And you can kind of experiment with that because the computer will use different formations in some form. It's kind of a little bit of, there's a lot of rock paper scissors in the design, also like missiles versus beams and so forth.
Okay. Do the scenarios all give you like 10 years to set up, build what you want, or some of them you're at war right away?
Some of them you're at war right away, and when you're setting up if you're creating scenarios, you can, you know, obviously you can set that up where
Okay. So
you can change the initial relations, and once it gets to a certain negative point, it gets more and more likely that you'll go to war.
Okay. So
Oh.
other thing is, what if I design a scenario where I don't put any resources, but I give the player a bunch of stuff, and I say, okay, this is your fleet. You can't be building new ships. Win with what you got. Is that a doable thing?
Yeah, you could. In fact, a few of the scenarios are exactly like that, where you like start with an asteroid and a fleet, and you have to overwhelm the cluster or whatever.
No, yeah, no, I noticed that some of the scenarios can take a really long time, even when you have everything fast forward. When-
You will notice that the newer scenarios tend to be a lot smaller than the older ones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I kind of learned my lesson on that. I didn't want to take anything out of the game,
Right.
but it is easy for these things to reach a level of complexity that no human being really effectively deal
Well,
with
yeah.
in a reasonable amount of time.
Well, once it gets huge, it's kind of like playing AI war.
Yeah.
So I'm finding like in the learning of this, because I tend to want to micro everything a lot. So I'm almost playing it turn based, because whenever you hit the pause key, it steps one tick forward. So
Yeah.
then once I think things, you know, everybody's got orders, and then I'll hit I'll hit play at normal speed and kind of watch it go. But yeah, I could assume like once you get pretty proficient with it, you can probably hit excuse me, like whack fast forward and let stuff at least get where it's going, because you know it's going to pause when it gets there. So.
Right, especially in the beginning of the game when nothing much is happening yet. Because until you go to war, mostly you might be putting fleets in position, but mostly you're just building stuff.
Yeah. You're securing your resources and building and building and building and upgrading your space station so it'll build even faster.
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
Researching and stuff. It's actually surprisingly compelling. I mean, you know, some people might look at this and go, "It's just a bunch of dots and circles," but
I've gotten some email about that too.
Really?
Most I've gotten a little bit of hate mail, but mostly it involves either the game being just way too complicated for an iPad user or something. And you know, I just don't have an answer for that. I'm like, this game isn't for you.
And it's only $6. I mean, you're getting a ton of game for $6. You know, I mean, that's ridiculous to complain. I'm sorry. I mean, you're getting a frack ton of gameplay for $6. I mean, you know, the editor, the random maps, the included scenarios, that's a ton of gameplay. That's hours.
Yeah, I guess I would be tempted to I don't know, because it's like for people that how much is it in the App Store? Like $6, right?
Yeah, $5.99, I believe.
So what about if you had a free version that only had just the training scenario in it?
I have actually just submitted that to the store.
Oh.
So it will be just on the iPad for now, because I'm not sure I'm going to do that on the Mac side, but it has like the first 2 scenarios. So you can see everything else that's in there, and you can like look at them, but it has a little button that says "Press this button to upgrade," and
okay, cool.
It takes you to the App Store, pretty much the same way a lot of other games do it.
Oh, that's nice. So if someone plays it and then they like it,
so it might actually, by the time this podcast goes up, because the review time on the App Store is about 2 or 3 days right now.
That's funny. So, folks, by the time this goes actually on the site, I mean, we're doing this live right now, but it'll probably go up like tomorrow. Who knows? Check out for a demo on. I'll definitely link to this, the iTunes page.
Yeah, I can give you a link when it's up.
Cool. Yeah, but yeah, you got like 22 ratings. It's 4.5 stars. That ain't nothing to sneeze at, you know.
And one very unhappy 1-star review.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't even see the reviews. I don't know. Do you have to be in iTunes to see them? I'm looking at the website.
I'm not sure. I know if you go to like the App Store, you can see. If you go into iTunes, you can see it. But there was one guy who was really cranky, and he changed. I think he changed his review because this first review was like, "This is crap. This is total crap. This is the worst thing ever." And then he like came to the because we have a forum up where we put where we have a couple scenarios and stuff where you know, because we have a game, we need a forum. And
sure.
He came in there and like what's the point of this game? This is the worst thing ever. And we're like, well, if it isn't for you, you can get a refund from Apple. Sorry.
Oh, it's funny. I see that. I see that thread right here. What's the point of this game? What's the point of?
Yeah, and after that, I think it was the same guy because he went back and kind of softened the review.
Yeah, what's the point of any game? I mean, what am I supposed to do? Wow.
Yeah, and as a developer, that made me really cranky, so I let my wife handle it because she's the other half of Lensflare Games.
Oh, okay, that's very cool. What is she? Is she the public relations face?
Well, she's an accountant, so she does all the books and stuff, and she also does the music, what little there is. So in this particular game, I actually made a conscious choice not to put any background music into it because I hate background music anyway.
What?
And some people have complained about that, and I probably will put background music in the next version if there is one. And
well, on an iPad,
probably.
Well, on an iPad, it'll allow you to launch iTunes and fire off whatever music you want and then go back into the game, right?
Well, what I do is I just turn the sound all the way down on the iPad and listen to podcasts while I'm playing.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So.
Do you listen to this podcast?
Yeah,
exclusively?
I do.
Like where the...
No, not exclusively, but I do listen.
Okay.
We appreciate
So
that.
you knew what you were getting into.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you can't write us like a crappy review and expect to get your money back because you already knew.
Money?
So
Wait, you're paying me?
No.
no, you're
In
paying us
Oh, oh yeah.
In M&Ms. We're
And
paying
I
you
want
in yellow M&Ms.
in yellow
Just
M&Ms.
yellow.
Just
Those-
yellow.
Because those are the ones that taste better, you know.
That was very funny. Your whole rider email. Douglas sent like an email, like it's like, when rock stars are coming to a concert, they send the venue a rider. I believe that's what they're called, and they're like a list of what the
Oh, yeah.
talent demands.
And he wanted
And it
yellow
could-
M&Ms.
Yeah, he wanted yellow M&Ms, and what would be called Grand Vizier of the Universe or some such nonsense.
The multiverse, man. The multiverse.
So this is
Where's my coloring book?
you've alluded that this is not the only game you're working on. So while we have you here, what else are you working on? I mean, it doesn't have to be spacey. I mean, pimp your stuff, man.
Right now, I'm not actually working. I'm kind of on a break between games, but the next one I'm planning on working on is actually a strategic election game. Kind of
Oh, what?
kind of an election management game, and the basic hook on it is, you know how like you have media markets and then you have states, and how the media markets don't really overlap states all that well.
Yeah.
So you have to like kind of decide where to put your advertising and where to like send your candidate to do his campaigning, and you can't just like stick stuff into a state because things aren't divided up that way. Like if you want to like target New Jersey, you have to go after the Philadelphia and New York markets, which is really inefficient because obviously those markets are expensive, and New Jersey is only like a certain part of those markets, and
Yeah.
basically it's kind of I kind of wrote a version of this game a long time ago in an obscure text language, and I wanted to actually like kind of update it and make it a little bit more strategic and put that out there. I think that's the next one I'm going to work on, although I haven't really decided. I'm also thinking about working on a kind of a World War I, World War II naval combat construction game, where you can basically set up sea battles for with ships, obviously, and aircraft carriers or what have you. Maybe have like some islands with ground-based aircraft, and design your own scenarios, design your own ships. So if you don't think the ships are accurate enough, you can modify them or whatever. Because I'm kind of a big fan of the idea of sandbox games, and being able to build your own scenarios, being able to build your own game. And one of the games I really liked to play back in, I think it was the early 90s, I think it was called Great Naval Battles.
Oh God, there were like 4 of those.
Yeah, and like I spent
Those
so
are-
much time playing the Pacific one, and I never played the scenarios that came with the game. I was constantly making my own scenarios and playing.
Oh, yeah, I started with, I think it was number 3, which might have been the Pacific one. Hang on, I gotta look it up now. But those were great games.
Yeah, and that's kind of a sweet spot, I think, for the iPad especially, because the iPad can totally handle pretty much all of the great games that were being made in the late 80s and early 90s with no problem at all.
Right.
And these days, a lot of those are kind of fallen by the wayside as like in the modern gaming scenario. I mean, there's a great like you were talking about earlier, Starbase Orion is a great version of essentially Master of Orion for the iPad, and I think that's a space where there's some possibilities.
Right.
And also, I love those games. I want to play them again.
Oh, those are wonderful. Yeah. And I'm looking. There were 5 of them. I forgot that there was a 5th one in World War One. I forgot about that. But yeah, the 3rd one was the one I started with. That was Fury in the Pacific. Oh God. No, such a good game.
It was kind of buggy though; it would crash.
Oh well, come on, it's SSI. Their games are buggy. They're I mean, SSI. I mean, they made so many wonderful games, but did you ever try playing like Age of Rifles or
Yeah.
Soldiers of War?
I think I bounced off that one.
Or that just they made wonderful games, but yeah, buggy. All the time, buggy. Oh my God! But they were wonderful. They were so wonderful. I want to play them again. God damn it! I played the hell out of those back in the day.
Oh yeah, I've been playing a lot of stuff on good old games recently. I've been playing a lot of Starflight, and
Oh yes.
it's
Uh,
clunky, but I loved it. You
oh
know?
God, yeah. Oh God, yeah. Well, back then there weren't mice
You
back
see,
in
see,
$1985.
simple stuff like Starflight. That's something that desperately needs an iPad port. I think it would
Yeah.
work pretty well. And you give it a touch
That would work.
interface instead of having to use the keyboard for everything, and it would be so better. Because
Yeah,
that's why I can't play it. I can't penetrate using a keyboard again. But I can't play Ultima for the same reason, because it's like, really, what? Non-standard keyboard, what? So,
I find myself running into that same problem. Like I tried playing Crusader No Remorse the other day, like a week ago or something, because I was talking to a friend about it, and I forgot how batshit insane that interface is, just to move around, let alone shoot anything. You know, I think it used the numeric keypad to move around or something. I was like, oh my God, what is this? I don't have the patience for this anymore. Oh God, this is so ridiculous. But yeah. So you would like to make a sequel to this at some point?
At some point, yeah.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I would love to see this fleshed out on a PC. I would with the random stuff and more like, oh, can you imagine like if like you had warp cruisers and like you had interdictors and mine layers like you said and
Carriers, and
carriers and fast attack ships and
command and control ships,
yeah,
mobile repair ships.
radar ships.
Yep. Well, we already got radar ships.
Oh, that's right. The Sentry. That's right. That's like the AWACS. That's right. Um, but God, yeah, this really took me back to a simpler time when games like this kind of goes into our question that we got this week. Can I just jump into that real quick? It's kind of related. We were just talking about these
Sure.
older games.
Sure.
The question we got, it's not a space game question, but it's from Brian M. and it's entitled "Non-Spacey Question." He says, your guys' conversation about DCS and Falcon 4 versus the old Jane's games in the Immersion episode hit on something that I've been thinking about for a while. Will flight sims be fun again? Somehow I missed Falcon 4. Well, you missed a big one. I imagine I was in college, didn't have the time, blah, blah. When I went all in with DCS, when I finally had the time, there's nothing there. It's an amazing simulation with no soul. IL-2 never hooked me, like the old Aces and James games. World of Warplanes and War Thunder haven't done for me either. Maybe I'm just an old fuddy-dud. Space games are coming back, so will flight sims be fun again?
you know, I
don't
have an
think they
answer
will.
to that.
I don't know if they will be, honestly. Go ahead.
Oh, well, no, go ahead with your thing. I'm queuing up an audio thing here. 'Cause
no.
No, it's good.
Okay. I mean, besides like the last sim I played before Wings Over Flanders Field that actually felt lively and fun was pretty much Falcon 4.0. I mean, it had that amazing campaign. It had these amazing simulations of battlefields where, you know, there were Jesus fuck.
Yeah, that was me. Okay, go ahead.
There were full-on battlefields. Oh, I know where you're going. I can see in the stream. I know where you're going. But they had full-on battlefields where all this different stuff was modeled. So you felt like you were like a soldier in a larger war. And a lot of the older games, I think, captured that kind of character really well. Now, Space Sims never really had to deal with that because most of them were more linear-driven, more story-driven, so they didn't have to, deal with this kind of emptiness usually. But flight sims have just gotten worse over the years, and so you have stuff like Wings Over Flanders Fields, which is amazing. I mean, that models the whole front, and it's just incredible to watch.
And
but then you have stuff like DCS, which both Jim and I own. We own the A10, and we're both afraid to touch that thing.
Well, it's too much. It's
it's way too
over
much.
modeled, over simulated. I'll say.
Yeah, it's
Because
overwhelming.
I don't want to
Overwhelming.
sit with a kneeboard and spend 10 minutes because I watched a guy go through the setup and he was competent at doing the
Is that the
the
guy with
engine
the
start.
three monitors and the small monitor in the front that had the dials on it? Is
No,
that
this
the one
is
you?
this is just a guy who's going through the startup procedure on the A10,
Mm-hmm.
and he's
Oh
doing it
God.
by the book, and he's quick. He's like click, 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 setting stuff. It took him 9 minutes and 40 seconds to get that thing ready to taxi,
No,
and
it
it's like,
didn't.
yes, it did, and because you got to sit and wait for the APU to spool up, and then spool up engine
Uh,
one, spool up engine two, check your fuel flow, set your radios, all that crap, and
uh,
ain't nobody
no,
got
I mean,
time for that.
just give me EF 2000 where you might taxi to a runway, but then you just take off, or even like what was it, F-19? That was like my first combat flight sim was
Okay,
F-19.
so here's what I'm thinking
You
is
want, yeah,
in in those games, the Jane's games specifically, they did one thing absolutely well. So when you're playing a DCS game and you're flying along, and you'll hear some sensor be like beep beep, and you have no idea what it is, and then pow, you get shot down. And it's like, oh yeah, I guess that was somebody shot something at me. I should have looked at the
yeah,
radar when I heard that. Right, and you can get competent with it. But it's in the Jane's games, you never felt like you were flying alone. And the
yeah,
computer was excellent about you would have a co-pilot in the computer, and it would tell you what the hell was going on. You drop
yeah,
bombs, and it would say, "Oh, that was a good hit," right? Things like that.
yeah.
Or
That
you
was
could,
that's
yeah, and there was chatter between not only you and the wingman, and the tower and you, but you would also hear the tower talk to other flights, and other flights would talk to each other out, like clear out of visual range, but it made the
right.
whole battlefield feel like there's stuff going on here. I'm not just one simulated bubble of reality, and nothing exists outside the bubble of what I can see. Right. So let me play a little F-15 here. Right, because
Will
I
this work?
struggled the other day. Huh?
Will this work? Will this work?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
10 seconds to release.
Oh yeah.
5 seconds to release. Bombs are gone. Good release. 20 seconds to impact. Laser on.
Yeah. God, those are the days.
5 seconds to impact.
Yeah. Why can't I get a game that does that now? I mean, for real.
Yeah. I
You
don't
know?
know.
And here's Longbow 2. Right. This is like a 6-minute video, so I'll jump out. And
Ah.
it's kind of loud, right? I loved Longbow 2, and
Oh God.
not just because I was a crew chief on one of these bad boys.
Oh no, Longbow 2 is still
But
one of the best in the
here,
business.
listen to this. Well, they're going to defy me and not talk now.
Echo 86, this is Echo 84. We are passing waypoint 2, over.
Yeah.
Yeah, this stuff doesn't happen in modern Sims. It's like they forgot.
Yeah, other Sims did this too. Like EF 2000 was great with this, as was Total Air War. You know, some of the other Sims are great with this. But yeah, they don't model the air war and they don't model other people. You're like in an empty, soulless tin can in an empty world.
I wonder if space games actually do this better these days.
Well,
We have talked to some developers.
At least as far as the balance between gameplay and complexity.
yeah. Well,
They're
I'll tell
getting
you,
better.
the
They're
game,
getting better.
the guy who is doing it right is Mike Tapul with Enemy Starfighter.
Yeah.
Because you can sit there and listen to the wingmen chatter amongst each other, and they call targets, and you played Homeworld, right? Like everybody's played Homeworld. So
Yeah.
when you send fighters out, and the fighters would be like, "All right, we're engaging," and that kind of thing. So you get that feedback from the guys, and it's just like Homeworld, except you happen to have the joystick in your hand and you're flying one of those fighters, and it's great. So,
yeah, keep an eye out for that one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. And
It already is a good time.
Well, one thing that's really cool about it is if you go to his Twitch channel, he actually, when he's coding the game, he streams his desktop live, and you can watch him like banging code, and then when he fires it up and tests a new build and stuff like that. So it's really cool.
So
I've never seen a developer do that before.
Yeah, I know mine would be really boring most of the time.
Well, yeah, that was our email. We got one. So hey, that's one. That's that's an email. Did you ever play Flight Sims, Douglas?
Oh yeah, I played Falcon on the Amiga actually.
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Falcon
the best
AT.
Oh god, yeah, Falcon AT. Oh my god. I still remember the cover of that very succinctly.
One of my roommates in college, we used to play head to head on our Amiga with like a null modem cable, to give you an idea how ancient that was.
Oh no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Would you have a 500?
I had a 3000.
Oh, well.
I did like video, or not video stuff, but graphics work on it.
Yeah, so you didn't have a video toaster with the Kiki effects?
No, but I had Lightwave the minute it got unbundled, and I was using like I don't even remember what the software was before that, but I was using other stuff because I've tooled around with that since I was a kid.
Oh, cool. I had a buddy back home that he did the chirons and a lot of the animation stuff, 3D, very primitive early 3D animation stuff for the local news, and he did it all on a video toaster on an Amiga 3000.
Yeah. Wait, I don't think it was ever in the 3000, was it? I thought it was.
It was an external box.
Okay, because I remember it being like you had to have a 2000 to run it, because I had the bigger box. The 3000 was smaller.
Oh, maybe it was a 2000 that he had, but the toaster itself was an external, like a PCI slot with a card. But I'll tell you, the most obscene external box ever was on the TI-99 4A, that floppy drive, because it was as big as a small RV, and it just had one floppy drive in it. It was like 10 expansion bays.
The same with the Commodore 64 drives. Those things were huge, and he also had as much processing power as the actual 64.
Yeah.
It was the same damn chip.
I knew a guy that had a 20 megabyte hard drive for his Commodore 64. He was running a Wares BBS off of it. And you could do a lot of stuff with 20 megs, man. That was
I got 20 megs on my first computer. I got 20 megs on was a IBM PS2. And I swear I put every fucking game I owned on that thing. Because they were all floppies, so they could fit.
Yep.
It was like the greatest thing ever.
I'll show you something.
And now a 20 meg game is like, what? Only 20 megs?
Well, yeah, Tactical Space Command is tiny. It's like 9 megs.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. That's pretty impressive.
Well, the only graphics in the entire thing are the logo at the beginning.
Right, but you also have AI and stuff, and that
but that's all code. None of that's it's the art assets that take up all the space.
And sound takes a lot of space too, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's just a few sound effects and a victory and defeat music. That's the only thing that's in there. I think there's only like 5 different kinds of sound effects. Maybe 6.
Jim, what are you doing?
I'm trying to log into a buddy of mine's BBS. It's actually Cave BBS.
He still what? He still runs a BBS?
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, it's homeip.net. There we go.
HallMyP? What the hell? This looks so, ancient.
It's not that ancient, man. That's Telnet. That's like the modern stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Now when it pops out a Z modem, then we'll know we're...
Oh, wow. Look at this.
Yeah, man. But I'm on a Mac, so I don't get to see the cool ANSI.
Ah, 2006. Damn. It just kind of flew by. I didn't even know there were BBSs still running.
Yeah, this is all BBSs that are up right now.
Oh my God, that's actually there's something comforting about that. I
And
spent
notice they're all synchronet.
I
But yeah,
spent so sorry, go ahead.
no, he's got a list of 70 that are up in there, which is kind of cool.
I spent so much of my impressionable youth on BBSs that something just comforting about knowing that they still exist.
Let's see what kind of wares he's got. Oh, there's none. Dang. Door
I
games?
haven't done it since the 80s. I wrote a door game once.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
door game? What's a door game? I'm forgetting.
It's with the BBS basically calls out to an external program. So I think that's why it's called a door, and it like
Oh.
takes over and it runs a game or whatever. Like we used to play like Risk and
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. I just didn't know they were called door games.
yeah.
Is Trade Wars like Knack in the channel says play Trade Wars?
Oh,
my-
yeah.
That's a is that a door game or is that built in?
Yeah,
Wasn't
that's
that more
totally
of
a door game.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I played a lot of that back in the day. Such amazing times. That's one of the nice things about your game is it kind of harkens back to those times where it wasn't all about Flash. You know, we were talking about that in the channel today, where someone, I think it was Knack. Sorry if I forgot, but he was showing me the Commodore 64 game, Mission Impossible.
I never saw that.
And that was pretty impressive. I mean, it had hacking and it had searching and it had jumping and it had all these different things, and yeah, it was a Commodore 64 game by Epix. I mean, you didn't have a lot of room to work with back then, but they got a lot of stuff in there. So it's just impressive what they do, and now it all seems to be more flash than substance a lot of times. But that's one of the great things about your game. It's definitely more substance.
Thank you very much.
Oh, absolutely. But I would love to see a sequel, by the way. Please bring it to the PC. Oh my God, you have to bring it to the PC. I mean,
If it happens, it will happen.
I hope so. You gotta let me know because I keep.
Oh,
like I
you
said,
know I will.
I keep
Remember, you promised to actually publicize a Kickstarter if I ever did one.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We will totally
Oh.
assist you in kickstarting.
Oh yeah, no, you should totally kickstart. Absolutely. Just have a really strong pitch, and update it a lot, almost every day.
It's a
Oh.
lot of work, man. Though that's
It
one
is.
of the reasons, that's one of the reasons why this ended up on iOS and the Mac is because I didn't have to do much work to do that. Because I suck at marketing.
Yeah,
I hate it.
I'm kind of learning about that myself. Oh, sorry, Knack. It was Impossible Mission. Excuse me. It was a Mission Impossible. It's That's a really simple mistake to make. Okay. I mean,
How many S's in Impossible Mission?
God, 4. I think, yeah, 4. I mean, there's been 4 Mission Impossible movies plus the show, and the movies were actually except the sound. The movies are actually quite good. So, I mean, that's what's going to stick in my mind, especially the last one, because Brad Bird,
Was
We
that
need
the
to-
one in?
We need to
In
get
the-
your game mentioned on Rock, Paper, Shotgun.
Well, they only do PC stuff.
They only
though,
do
right?
PC stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that's the thing about them. They only do PC stuff. So does Blues News. So that wouldn't work either.
Well,
I mean, there's not.
There's oh, what the heck is it? I got it on my iPad. It's like right in front of me. I should look. It's Touch Arcade. Yeah.
Well, there's Touch Arcade, and there's Pocket Tactics.
Pocket Tactics is the people that give us the most coverage. I mean, we're pretty popular there. I think probably half the sales at least that we've gotten has been via Pocket Tactics.
Now, is doing this your full-time gig, or do you have another gig where you write games?
No, I write much more boring software than games every day.
Oh, what do you write?
Jim knows it. It's like I work for a company called Chef, and our product is called Chef, and it does automation. Like if you need to like have a bunch of web servers or something, use this software to like configure it automatically. And it's not that exciting. I mean, but it's a great company. I love working there, and it pays the bills.
Have you used that program, Jim?
Yeah, actually, we've used that and a competing piece of software that's called Puppet, which do essentially the same thing. So let's say you have, like in your cloud service, you want to be able to spin up, if demand gets really high, say it's around the holidays, well, I need to spin up more web servers, and I also have to clone out this database. That I need to make my environment bigger to swell up to meet the demand for a period of time. So you would trigger automation could call up Chef and say, "Hey, spin up like 5 more of these machines and have them join the cluster." And so it'll launch the machine out, install the OS, and then like patch it up, and then install the software and run the configuration for the software, and then it'll join into the cluster and just be like it's always been there. And then it'll tear it back down when it doesn't need it anymore, because the cloud stuff bills by the minute, right? So you want to, if you're not using it, tear it down, and that's the thing. So it makes an elastic cloud. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Did I get it right?
Yep, that's pretty much right on. And
Should I be
like
a sales
big
engineer? Is there a career for me at Chef?
I don't know. You could ask. But yeah, so big companies like Facebook will use it to like set up their clusters, and anybody who does a lot of cloud computing will use it to like spin up a whole bunch of machines on EC2 or someplace. And yeah, it's not real sexy, but it's lucrative.
Yeah, that's important. You got to pay the bills so you can do stuff like this in your spare time.
Yeah, I'd love to go full time doing game dev someday, but
no, I hear you, man.
That day's a long way away. And in the meantime, honestly, I wouldn't do it right now. I mean, I like working with the people I work with. I mean, there's a really, really great bunch of guys at Chef.
Yeah, I pretty much feel the same way about my job. Like, I love working on this site, but I'd do it full time if I could. But yeah, it's not going to happen for a little while. So I work at a great company as well, so I'm pretty happy there. But yeah. So wait, how long have you been making games?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, it depends what you mean by making games. I mean, I've been writing text adventures since I was in grade school, but this is the first time. But this is the first time I've ever actually released anything.
Oh, really? So it's
Yeah.
mostly been a hobby until this.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, I would write like, you remember the old Trek game, like I think it's BSD Trek or something. The one where you have the 8x8 quadrants with
Oh,
like
hell yeah! Oh, I played
Yeah.
the fuck out of that. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, like I made a version of that. That had Romulans and Borg and crap.
Ah,
And all of these are completely lost to the sands of time. And just for fun, I would do things like write a chess engine that never worked. It's when you're a programmer, and you've been doing it like your whole life, like I have. It's like something you do to entertain yourself, or if you have a problem, you write a program to fix it. It's like I wanna like do some text editing thing. Well, I don't really want to do the text editing, so I'll write a program that does it.
Yeah,
it's just
it's also like sysadmin mentality. If I have to do it more than twice, I want to script it. But then
Yeah.
XKCD had an interesting cartoon about that one time. They were talking about, once you start writing scripts that automate all your stuff, how much time do you actually spend upkeeping all the scripts versus your job? And eventually it's like you're spending more time keeping your scripts working than it would be to just do the thing. So XKCD is always relevant.
Yeah, I saw that one too. But the difference between a programmer and a sysadmin is a programmer will write the program anyway.
Yeah.
He doesn't really care. It saves time.
Hey, did you see that? Well, there's been some articles about it, but there was a thing on Reddit today where they were talking about, well, this guy nailed the mindset around businesses and the, quote, real programmers. And they're like, yeah, well, real programmers, like, you're not a real programmer if you just work a 40-hour week. Because real programmers are supposed to get there at like roll in at 10 or 11 and stay till 2 in the morning and and all that. And it's like there's that mentality in that. And I thought that was only in the game development thing where they try to burn people up.
I've had jobs like I mean I've worked for companies like that, and honestly, you do burn people up doing that. And you're never and you don't actually unless you do it unless it's like the week before a deadline. Doing that's totally counterproductive because you've only got so much thinking in your head,
Mm.
honestly. And the times that I got the most game programming done are the days that I didn't do as much programming at work because I have a fixed because I work remote, and when you do that you have to have discipline. You have to sit down, and the way I do it is I sit down, and when I'm sitting down in the basement where my office is, I'm at work. That's all I'm paying attention to. And on the days that I'm doing a lot of programming, because it varies a lot, even when you're doing programming, there's days where you'll be spending a lot of time doing administrative type stuff, like dealing with like paperwork or just figuring out what the next project's going to be, or just like meeting stuff. And on those days, I would get a lot more, and then after I'm done with work, I would go and sit on the couch and I'd, turn on Star Trek. I made it through like all the Star Trek while I was working on this game, by the way, starting from the beginning, including the animated series because it was on Netflix. But on the days,
yes.
but on the days that I did a lot of programming, I really wouldn't do any in the evening on the game. But on the days I was doing more administrative stuff, I would, have that mental energy left, and I get a lot more game dev stuff done. And there's some of that, and there's some of it's also momentum. I'm getting a lot of game dev stuff done. I'm getting more game dev stuff done. And then there's times that I'm just kind of stuck and I just not producing much. But if you're doing 12-hour days every day and you're never off, you're not going to actually have very high quality output.
Because you don't have
And you're
that
not-
work-life ratio,
And-
and you never give your
and-
brain a chance to cool off, so you never really get in the
Right.
zen of programming.
And it's not just that, because once you're dealing with projects that you didn't write from scratch, that you don't know that well, an awful lot of programming is figuring out what the other pieces of code do. And you got to have energy for that. That takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
You got to be
Yeah.
able to concentrate on it. And because a lot of programming, when you're doing, the bigger a project gets, the less actual code you're producing. Because you're making sure everything still fits together and still works and so forth. And you got to have the energy, otherwise you're going to be useless.
Well, what do you find as far as distraction in that in coding, where a buddy of mine and I used to have these chats about work efficiency and how distracting somebody, because we had a boss that would just walk in your cube and be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" like all the time. And if you break me out of writing something, if you distract me for more than say 30 seconds, it's gone. My zen. I'm no longer in the zone, right? And it takes me about a half hour to get myself back there to where the code just kind of flows. And then it's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" It's like, "Oh God, here we go again." So yeah, that's kind of impactful. So what he was doing, he found this thing called the Pomodoro system, which Pomodoro is a tomato. So this guy had a little tomato timer that wrote the book about it. But you could use any kind of timer. And he said what he'd do is he would work for like 20 to 30 minute sprints and then take a 5-minute break to like disengage from it, and then come back and work like another 20 to 30 minute sprint. And he found that was working really well for him. But I don't know if you guys employ anything like that or what. But
Not formally. I mean, because different things work for different people. I actually find that I can concentrate once I get into the zone. I can concentrate for a pretty long time. I have sat down to like code something, especially in the game where I don't have to do a lot of research or anything, because I'm pretty much writing it from scratch.
yeah.
Where
Well,
sometimes I'll sit down and it'll be like 3 hours later, and I'll notice that it's 3 hours later just because that time is gone because I've been productive.
But is it productive? Like, are you flexible to work whatever schedule you want? Like, if you're just not feeling it, like you sit down and it's like, "Man, I'm trying to code today, but I just can't do it." So can you just go like watch Star Trek for an hour or two and come back and try it again? Or are you guys results based, or is it like so many lines of code a day is what the expectation is?
we are pretty flexible, although I don't like to do it that way. I don't know if other people do. I mean, we work in small teams, so you know when people are being productive and you know when stuff is happening. And we do a good job of communication because you have to when you have a company with a lot of remotes like our company has.
Mm-hmm.
And
how do you communicate? Are you using something like a chat room product or?
Yeah, we use Google Hangouts sometimes. Lately, we've been using something called Sakoko, which is kind of this faux office space where you chat via video in the spaces, and you can share screens and stuff. And we've used like GoToMeeting and Skype in the past, although I don't use it much anymore. But I mean, we're kind of transitioning out of that startup phase into being a real company, if you know what I mean, because we just passed about 100 people in the company. So we were really pretty ad hoc about it before, and we're getting a little bit more organized. But yeah, I mean, we use whatever we have at hand. I mean, we're pretty flexible that way.
And there's a gap there. As far as a company where you're in startup mode and then you have to jump the gap into being a real company. And a lot of companies can't make that leap because the culture's a certain way. And then whenever they say, oh, now we have to become like ISO 9000 compliant suddenly.
We don't have to go that far, thank God. I've been in companies that were ISO 9000 compliant, so I've been through the whole process. But I'd say we're still in that gap. And I think we're transitioning it pretty well. I mean, I've seen it go a lot worse than this company does. Mm-hmm. And, we've had some really, really good people in the right place at the right time, and like our management and so forth, who really have helped us through this transition, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't seem like a company that's hell-bent on acquisition, right? Like, a lot of companies will be like, we're going to start this startup, and our goal is to get bought by Microsoft, Apple, somebody, so we have to dress the thing up real pretty and then try to put it on the market. It's like, get our valuation up and then bail out. But they don't seem to be doing that, so, that's...
No, I mean, we have a solid product, we've got solid engineering, we're really in it for the long haul. And I think it shows, as you say.
Yeah, because the company that I worked for that actually used your product, they were in that. They were like, we got to get huge fast, and then try to like court HP or somebody to, before we run out of ideas, basically.
Yeah, and we've got positive revenues and everything, so.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because it's never fun trying to keep the venture capital guys satisfied on a monthly basis, because it's like you're working more for them than for the product at that point. So, yeah, I've been down that road. It's ugly. But, anywho, yeah, so I think the game's pretty cool.
Yeah, we should probably wrap this up. It's been talking about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much corporate organization is on topic for space games.
Well, but the thing is, like, so many people who are doing this. I mean, if you're making a space game, then that means you're a programmer. So the people who are doing that usually are doing it if they haven't kickstarted and quit their day job. Then they're still a programmer like that. So I think it is kind of relevant to a bunch of our audience. So I think that's not wasted.
Yeah, it's hard for full time, that's for sure.
Yep.
God knows I'm not there.
Yeah. Well, let me know when you're hiring.
Yeah. Well, Douglas,
for your own company, I mean.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Douglas, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. That was a lot of fun. Your game, again, folks, if you missed it, Tactical Space Command. It's on the Mac and the iPad. I'm falling asleep. That's why I'm sounding so sluggish. But
it's daylight savings time.
It's killing me, man. Fucking sorry. It's fracking. Okay, no, I wanted to say something. An email a show or two ago, we had an email that said I cursed too much.
Yeah, and you've still failed miserably on that.
Right. So I want to say what I'm going to try and do is curse in the style of Johnny Maroney from Johnny Dangerously. Not Johnny Maroney. Maroney. I only know is Maroney. He was the one that said Fargan Ice Hole and summon a bitch and stuff like that. So I'm gonna try and butcher the English language when I curse, so I won't be offending everyone.
So we
So-
need to get a curse jar, and you have to put money in
Fargan-
it.
Fargan Daylight Savings Time. Oh, and if you guys haven't seen Johnny Dangerously, it's early Michael Keaton, and it's hilarious. I mean, it's funny for just the movie within the movie, your scrotum and you. So it's, I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. It's got Peter Boyle, Mary Lou Henner, Griffin Dunn, I think is in it, and who's the woman from All in the Family?
Oh gosh.
Damn
Yeah.
it!
Oh, there you go again. Tip jar.
God, is that? I don't know if he had a thing.
Garamit.
Garamit. Maureen
Kraken.
Stapleton. Maureen Stapleton. That's what I was thinking. Wait, she was the woman from? Was that the same woman from All in the Family?
Yeah.
Is that
so?
her?
Maybe.
Yeah.
So
maybe.
Doug, have you been on the Broken forums?
The Broken forums?
Yeah, it's
Why are we
Broken Forum,
talking-
brokenforum.com. Because he just said Garamit, and that's the Space
That's a
Games Garamit post
That's
that
a
you
fire.
have.
But that's a Firefly thing, dude.
Oh,
It
is
is a
it?
Firefly.
Have
yeah.
you, wait. Have you not seen Firefly?
2 episodes.
What?
I find
What?
if it
I've been
wasn't for how
talking to you,
badly
I've been talking to you for a year, and this is coming up now.
But they were the 2 good episodes, and I watched Serenity
No,
like
every
3 times.
oh my god, every episode is good.
you want me
every
to rant
episode
about their Chinese?
is genius.
But I'm watching them out of order, like God intended.
No, don't pull a Firefly / Almost Human on it. You gotta watch it. It's on Netflix.
I know,
It's
and
on
I've
Netflix.
been watching Almost Human, and I love that show.
right,
That's like
but
right in my
Fireflies-
wheelhouse.
Fireflies on Netflix. And it's in
think-
order.
Thank your stars you don't know any Chinese though. It's totally painful.
Oh no, I lent my DVD copy to a friend back in the day who spoke Mandarin, and she loved the show. But when I asked her, "Oh, what'd you think about the Chinese?" She's like, "Oh my God, it was awful. It was so terrible." She told
They can't even keep their Japanese and Chinese straight. That's the most annoying part.
Do you speak Mandarin? Is that what's going on here?
My wife speaks Mandarin. I speak very, very little. I speak more Japanese than because I lived in Japan for 2 years, and she lived there
Oh.
for 5.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. So actually, I have
It's kind
another
of painful.
I have another show for you then. If you go over to badmoviepodcast.com, which is my
That's
other gig, I've done a couple of shows now with an old friend of mine named Cheryl. And the first one is like episode 15, 16, where it's like meet my friend Cheryl. And then she circled back and we talked. She was an exchange teacher in Beijing for like 4 years. And she was talking about her impression of going over there and, learning Chinese. She actually married a Chinese guy while she was over there. And moved in with the family and the whole. She got the full experience, right? Like you can't get a more integrated experience than marrying into the family. But anyway,
Yeah,
So
tell me about it.
yeah. So is your wife Asian or?
She is Malaysian Chinese.
Oh, okay. So
So-
yeah, it would be interesting to get feedback from you and her about the conversation Cheryl and I had then, because she was
I
talking
don't
about.
think
She was talking about whenever she moved over there, and it's just the whole thing of being like, okay, Gaijin on the street, right? And then like,
well,
trying to
Malaysia's
integrate-
very different.
okay.
I mean, Malaysia is a former British colony, so it's nothing like China.
All right.
I mean, maybe Japan is a little bit like China because people. Well, it depends on where in Japan. Because if you're in Tokyo, there's so many foreigners that it's completely nobody pays the slightest attention. Maybe if you're wandering somewhere like Inaka, a small town somewhere, you'll get a lot of attention. But
So what were you in Japan for?
I just went back to school for no good reason.
Oh well.
It was my midlife crisis.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So, but you chose like I'm gonna go to school in Japan. instead, right?
Well, I went back and I went and studied Japanese actually.
Oh, well, I
So
guess that's a good
that's
place to do it, right? Like if you're gonna,
And that's what I was thinking.
yeah. So Brian sent
So-
me a link to the Firefly Complete Series Blu-ray.
It's $18 right now. That's a fucking steal.
Hey,
Just
hey,
watch it
hey!
on that.
Tip
Okay,
jar.
that's a farging steal. Don't be a son of a bitch. Bye.
Is there some way that I can get it with everything edited out except the scenes of Marina Baccarin and Summer Glau? Because if somebody could just like string that all together and make like one good hour of television.
Dude, did you just insult Jewel Saite?
Wow.
No, but
Ochita Torres. Hello.
no, I don't know. But everybody's got to have their favorites, right? And I'm just saying that I feel that I'm most sexually compatible with Marina Baccarin.
Also, aren't you married?
I am, but we do have certain exceptions.
Everyone
yeah.
should have a free 5 list. I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
you know.
I think I'm limited to 2.
Well,
It's
that
not
would be
called
my 2.
It's not free 2. It's free 5. Come on.
Hey,
Well, I only negotiated for 2 with my wife.
speaking of Summer Glau, though, have you seen Knights of Badassdom yet?
No.
It's not the best movie ever, but it is the best movie with her and Peter Dinklage in it.
But, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't go wrong with either of them. Really.
right. And then you put them both together, and there's
Isn't Timothy Zahn in that one?
yep, yeah. There's a lot of cool people in that movie. I think
No,
I
it's
think it was
Timothy
one of those. It was one of those projects where it was just like Peter Dinklage is making a movie about like live action role play people, and it's going to be stupid. So
Yeah.
just call all my friends. You know, it's like, hey friends, come on down. We're making a movie. We're gonna have a blast, and that's basically what it was. And my only great disappointment in it is that they didn't somehow manage to get Jack Black in there. And when you see the movie, you'll know why. So there is a definite role for Jack Black to play. He should have been there. His absence was conspicuous. Also, like some of the other people from Game of Thrones, like specifically Christian Narn, he could have been in there. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Well, let's wrap this up before it goes too much further off the rails. Folks, want to thank you for listening. This was our first live thingamajig, and I think it went fairly well. We got some people listening in chat, and got some feedback, mostly from NAC and EBM. Thank you for talking, guys. So we'll try this again next week. I don't know if we have a guest next week or not. Things are kind of fluid right now.
If we don't,
So
we
might
should have
not-
Knack on, because Knack's super cool. He's also in the Denver area, so maybe him and Doug
Really?
can hang out.
Is
Yeah.
he?
Yep.
Eh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's super cool, and seems to like really know games like inside and out. Probably more so than the two of us put together. I'm afraid to admit.
It looks like if we do not round up a guest next week, we're going to be doing a Where Are They Now roundup, which we talked about earlier.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, so if we don't get a guest next week, and I've got lots of irons in the fire right now, folks, then that's what we'll be doing.
Okay. Hey,
so stay tuned.
what about your
Yeah.
press person from? Remember whenever we were talking to Stardock, and then there was their PR lady, and she wanted to come on. Have you circled back with her yet?
No, I haven't.
You should do that.
Okay, hang on, I'll just
Pencil her in. It'll be good.
I don't even, okay. I'm just going to add that there to the thing. Okay, well, folks, thank you so much for listening. Remember, if you want to email us, it's hail@spacegamejunkie.com. We will read your emails on the air until we start getting too many that we can't. That'd be a nice problem to have. But until then, we will definitely read your emails on the air. So if you have a question or would like us to talk about something, send us an email. Again, hail@spacegamejunkie.com. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good night. And Jim, play us out.
All right.
Jesus fuck.
Oops. Hey now, tip jar. Sorry, I hit the wrong button there.
Jesus farging.
Let's have some music in here, Boiler. Sure thing.
Sunshine down, but I see the only one. When I think I'm over you, I find out skies, you're up in the night.
Oh, that's the best John Denver song. I bet
That
it
is
wasn't
so.
John Denver.
Will you cut the thing, man? Just
Cut the
kill
what?
it.
The whole
Cut,
thing?
kill it.
The live
kill it.
feed, do you mean?
Kill the feed.
Oh, we're going to
We're-
speak in private, specifically about Knack.
Oh, for
All right, hold on. All right,
Kill it.
hang on to your socks, kids. The stream's going.